but your movie has within the aesthetics of the movie. So it's like the very way the story is told and the very way it's shot and some of the images embed the holy fool structure in it. So it's not like, you're using a nice kind of normal way of the way people, a modern cinema audience looks at a movie, like here's just a frame, a box, and I'm watching a story. But you use aesthetic means in the story to bring about the thing. And so there's an interesting modern aspect to what you're doing, but that's why I think the movie is it's so particular because of that, because the very means by which you tell the story are making you experience what it is the movie's about.
This is Jonathan Pedro. Welcome to the Symbolic World.
Hello, everyone. I am here with Josh David Jordan. Josh is a Texan filmmaker. You can tell just by looking at him. He has just put out he just finished his second feature film, which is called Tonto Por Cristo. It is a really beautiful and poetic exploration of this imagery around the Holy Fool and kind of this edge of the world symbolism of this monastery in Texas. It's a very beautiful movie. I had the chance to see with Richard Rowland, Deacon Seraphim, maybe a few months ago, and was kind of blown away. I've been following this movie for several months, for like a year now, I think. I met Josh before, and I'd seen a kind of rough cut of the movie, but finally seeing the final movie was really quite something. And so Josh is doing something that is wild. It's a monastery in Texas. It has this kind of southern feeling to it, but it also is it has all of this beautiful poetic approach, like Ingmar Bergman and Tarkovsky. It really is an art movie. And so I decided to get involved in any way I could to help promote this, because it's definitely worth your time. And they are right now doing a Kickstarter where they're hoping to do a theatrical release, and so they need some funds to be able to get the movie out there so people can see it. And there are all kinds of amazing tiers where you can participate, have your name in the credits. You can, there's the top tiers. You will fly out and you can watch a movie with Richard, Deacon Seraphim, and I, and Josh and stuff. So Josh, thanks for coming on and tell us a little bit about why you made this crazy movie in the first place.
Yeah, what an intro. I got to take you everywhere I go. That I feel really good. I can, accomplish a lot today after that. So, El Tonto Por Cristo came about really from me almost not wanting to make a film like this. So I've been Orthodox for 11 years now. I was a filmmaker before from Dallas, Texas. I'll even go way back. My dad was a traveling evangelist growing up. And so we were on the actual road with my dad. We were in a station wagon. Me and my brother wore polyester 3-piece suits. We opened up. We were part of the part of the service. And in between that, there was a lady named Geraldine. She looked like Loretta Lynn, and she had a puppet named Ricky. They went on. And then my dad would, close the White Tent Revival down, and we go on to the next town. And as a kid, you only know what you know. So my dad was an actor before he became a preacher in high school and in college. So maybe genetically, that's why I was attracted to it, because I would always find the puppeteer at the vacation Bible school or the summer camp or the church. And then obviously being the opening act for a lady who was a ventriloquist, she gave me my first puppet. And so I was always in this world of imagination. My dad said they'd be traveling, 10 hours driving, and I would pop up from the back seat and just do a whole puppet show. And, growing up like that, this is the 80s. And so we're in the backwoods of Mississippi. I'm not really even watching TV really. But I knew I was drawn to this theatrical thing, this drama, when they talked about Noah's Ark, I saw it, I saw how it looked. And, fast forward, you're in the middle of nowhere, and I'm not in LA or New York. And to be there, you had to go to like NYU or USC to do film because it was film back then. It wasn't digital.
Right. Yeah.
And so the closest thing I could do was really acting. So I went to University of Missouri. I did acting. Came back to Dallas. I was in feature films. I did the sitcom. Went out to LA and did the sitcom Scrubs for an episode or two, and did commercial work. And there was something like I felt like something was lacking. Like I wasn't a part of the storytelling because you're there for a day and people are there for, months and months and a year's editing. And I didn't know that I wanted to be a director until I started making music videos. And then I started making short films. And then I was like, well, let's just make a feature film. So I made This World Won't Break, which is about a Dallas, Texas singer-songwriter who doesn't make it. And how it all comes about and how most of my work comes about is my wife. I was watching Netflix one night and I was just scrolling like we all do. And she was like, what do you want to watch? I said, I want to watch a movie about a country singer who doesn't make it. We have The Fall from Grace, the old guy, where you have the guy who makes it and he plays the theater. I was like, what about the guy who wakes up and he's 40 years old and he's still playing bars? What does he do? What's that movie? And she goes, well, why don't you make it? And so challenge accepted. We went and made it. And I realized I was able to make feature films and that people wanted to see them. And that film traveled the world. We went to Australia, we went to Ireland, Scotland. And this whole time I'm Orthodox and I'm planning my next films. But in the services, I would look around at these icons and my mind would wander a little bit. I'm like, well, what's the story there? What's the story there? And I start reading books. Then I'm really reading the Desert Fathers. I'm really reading about the Fool for Christ. I'm just like become obsessed with this. And I'm writing, I'm reading, I'm reading. I'm not even writing yet. I'm just reading. And then I'm realizing I can't focus on these other projects that I want to make because I feel like I need to make this film. And the thing that dawned on me was like, I'm a convert. I've only been Orthodox for, at this time, it was 9 years. And I'm like, am I Orthodox enough to make a film about a holy fool? I don't think I am. But I realized, like Jess said, the world that I live in Orthodoxy here in Texas, we have a monastery here in Texas, and there's only 2 nuns there, and we go out there and help mow the yard, and it's Texas, Mennonites live next door, and they help out. It's just a whole nother world. And I was like, well, that's my Orthodox world. I can make that. And I started looking around and, because you want to look for things as artists, as inspiration examples. And there just wasn't anything out there. And when I would talk about it, it did seem foreign. And that's when it clicked because I love foreign films. I love European cinema. And, I love Wings of Desire. I love The Seventh Seal. I love Ordette. These are all films. And when you watch El Tonto Por Cristo, if you're a lover of films and a cinephile and like those Criterion style films, you'll see the inspiration in there because it's just like it just flooded through and it was a subconscious thing. I remember we were filming a scene in the movie. It's the kitchen scene when they're baking the bread, and it wasn't working because I had it like a Bergman film. It was in my brain, and it wasn't working. It was becoming really, really funny, and it was humorous, and we were losing the lighting. And I remember my actor pulled me aside and he goes, I think you're trying to get a certain thing across. He's like, just let it go. He's like, it feels like this is like Dead Man, like Jim Jarmusch's Dead Man. He goes, just let it be. Let this be your own film. And that was on day like 3. And it just opened up the doors. And I think if it wasn't for Frank Mosley, who's a phenomenal actor, really saying that, and he's not Orthodox. He's not even Christian, but he was so moved, I think, by the process, the reverence of how things were going, and he was like, just roll with it. So that was a long-winded way of saying what El Tonto Por Cristo, how it came about, maybe.
Yeah. And so when I watched the film, in some ways you hinted at it already, is that there's something very surprising about the clash of the different images. In some ways, the style of the movie, for people who've seen clips or images of it, it's a black and white movie. It's a very composed movie. It has it has the kind of composition, the styles of composition that you'll see like in a Bergman film where there's this black and white. It helps because the monks are dressed in black. there's something about already the setting that makes it very beautiful and very interesting to look at. But that clashes with this kind of sweaty Dallas, feeling of and then, there's a fish shack and there's this whole sense of, right, it's like this really, and so you have all of these surprising clashes, which seems to go well with the kind of holy fool imagery. But, what was your, I guess my question is, it's like, what attracted you to this foolishness, like this sense of for people, people haven't seen it yet, but it really is, in some ways, it's one of the most surprising and deep explorations of imagery of folly in the context of a monastery that I've seen. So what attracted you to that particular type of the carnival kind of foolish imagery that you bring into the movie?
I think it's like, it goes back to my childhood. It was like I was almost in a carnival in a way at times.
Yeah. Well,
And
I guess you said that, like when you talked about the puppeteering and your dad being a minister, it's like.
Yeah, and I think it was, and there was a lot of, it was very evangelical and it was very theatrical. But I think if I wasn't doing that, if I wasn't doing acting, if it was like back in the day as a vaudeville, I'd probably run away with the circus. That's just how that's how I really see the world. I'm not a scholar, I'm not an intellect in that type of way, but I do visualize and see. And I think, being in the theater as an actor, being an actor based, you really can't have any pride per se on the stage. You are sort of a fool. You are sort of a clown. You are entertaining the audience. And so that part made sense to me. When I read about saints, I was always attracted to the ones who did wild things like, climbing a tree and not coming down and living in a tree and sleeping in a tree and just praying. For some reason, that makes sense to me, And, it's like I always tell my wife, I'm like, whenever I'm writing and creating, if someone were to take my phone and listen to my voice memos, they would put me in a mental institution because I do the characters' voices before I write everything down. I act things out. It's really how my brain works. And so when I was just reading so much about the Desert Fathers and about the Fools for Christ, and it made me understand Christ. It made me understand God. And that's maybe a broad way to say it, but in a simple way, that's how I really understand it. I understand foolishness. I mean, I feel like, forgive me, Father, I'm a fool. That's something that I say time and time again. Not that I'm trying to be a fool for Christ, but I'm just like, man, I am sometimes just an idiot. And, that word is used a lot in drama and in writing and stuff. And it totally makes sense because there's a comedy to it. When people act bizarre or strange, it's borderline humor and comedy. But in that is one step over. It's, it's seriousness and drama and very focused. I always go back to like Robin Williams, who was like the funniest person in the world, but he also was like a very quiet, deep thinker, and it's you're walking this fine line, and there's just something so attracted to that to me. And I really wanted to make sure that the audience was enjoying themselves. And so what better than to be able to freely write for a Texas monastery on this coast with this fool for Christ who's played by Matthew Posey, Father John, and just watching his exploration from being a fool to being, don't want to give away any spoilers.
Yeah, but so the movie is fascinating because in some ways, we're talking about it as if it's an Orthodox film. Like this is not an Orthodox film. Like this is a film,
Right.
and
Exactly.
it's not a. There's absolute. One of the things that attracted me to it is that the message or whatever message there is embedded within the entire aesthetics and the entire, the story itself. There's no. How can I say? It's not an evangelical film the way that a lot of Christian films are. It really is just a beautiful film. And so I was curious to get a sense of, because now you probably had quite a few people watch it. You've had people that are in the church, that are outside the church, people that are maybe some Orthodox, some Christians that aren't Orthodox, and then some people that are completely secular. And have you seen, how do people react to it? Like, what has been people's take from these different slices of reality?
No, that's a great question. It really does seem like, as of right now, because the film hasn't been released widely, like you said,
Yeah.
it's only been screened privately, maybe a handful of times. And when we had the big showing, which had some of our investors who were not Orthodox, and that's something else, is the majority of the patrons of the arts, the big patrons of the arts of this film, are not Orthodox.
Yeah.
Some are not even Christian.
Yeah.
I think that they saw the what art we were producing. We did sort of a lookbook. We did a test with Matthew Posey, and we filmed some stuff so people could see what it's going to feel like. And they loved the idea that it was going to be shot in this 1:6:1 ratio, black and white, a nod to European cinema, and they were all in. A lot of people have questioned that are Orthodox. We get lots of messages, and it's has this film been blessed? Is this film Orthodox enough? Is it, and I get where they're coming from. Like, who is this based on? How is this fictional? How is this? That's the one thing that I think because it hasn't been done in America before, which is a narrative fictional feature. Most things that we see in the Orthodox world, as you know, is
Documentaries, yeah.
and they're like mainly made in Greece or Russia, and they're beautiful, and I love those things. But Orthodoxy is young in America, and I wanted to put my fingerprint on making narrative features. There's the Russian film Ostrov.
Yeah, that's the biggest. I was just thinking about that movie. I was thinking, if you want to compare your movie to a movie that exists, that is the one to compare it to, in the sense that it's a fictional story about a monk. It also has this holy fool aspect to it, and so it's not like there is no precedent for this. Like, there are precedents for these types of stories, but your vision is, how can I say this? Like, this is hard. I think people will understand. Is like, Ostrov is a beautiful film about this character that is ambiguous to many people and is kind of acting in a kind of holy fool way and is affecting people's lives. So it's worth watch. Everybody should watch that movie. It's beautiful. But your movie has within the aesthetics of the movie. So it's like the very way the story is told and the very way it's shot and some of the images embed the holy fool structure in it. So it's not like, you're using a nice kind of normal way of the way a modern cinema audience looks at a movie. Like, here's just a frame, a box, and I'm watching a story. But you use aesthetic means in the story to bring about the thing. And so there's an interesting modern aspect to what you're doing. But that's why I think the movie is it's so particular because of that, because the very means by which you tell the story are making you experience what it is the movie's about. I don't know if you see the difference between what I'm trying to bring about.
Oh, for sure. And I think a big thing, and the thing that was always written in ink, was it was going to be in black and white. And a lot of people are like, why is this in black and white? Even like a lot of producers or distribution companies at first were like, because when I was doing it, black and white wasn't this big thing that now has kind of taken off. Like, there's been the TV show Ripley that was in black and white.
The Lighthouse was in
the Lighthouse was so great, and then Roma, which won Academy Awards, is a Catholic film called Ida by a Polish director, which is phenomenal. It won the Academy Award. It was in black and white, and that was so important to me to make it black and white. Was, if anyone's ever been inside of a cathedral or an Orthodox church, the iconography is gorgeous. All of the candelabras and the candle holders. You have this smell of the incense. You're constantly moving. It's you're participating in that way, and I wanted to take away all of that, and not rely on, because we can, as filmmakers or as artists, just be like, that shot's so beautiful because of the color, but it does not help your film. It doesn't push the film along and the narrative along. You've cheated the audience in a way, right? And I think making this black and white, the audience almost participates and they're watching the story. And it's not about, like you said, it's not about orthodoxy. It's about these men who are at this monastery. And, there's not a lot of them. That was something that was really important to me, because the monasteries I go to here in Texas, there's not a lot of.
That's right. Not a lot of monks in Texas.
No, I haven't gone yet. We're going this year to Greece, and I get a chance to go to Mount Athos. I haven't been there, and I'm glad that I haven't been before making this film.
Yeah.
I look
There's
forward.
also
Yeah.
something else like that. I'm going to say this, and probably people are going to get annoyed with me, but there's also, because of the fact that there aren't many monks in North America, there's a very particular thing that happens, which is that not all the monasteries, but some of the monasteries end up being a very strange ragtag group of very quirky people that end up becoming monks in North America. Whereas in countries where there's a lot of monasteries, you know things kind of even out. But here in America, some of the monasteries, there's some really very strange people that end up in those places.
Yeah, that was really important to me. And as a priest also said, I've been an abbot of a monastery for a very long time, and you nailed the monastery. And I was like, okay, good. I was a little bit worried, and it was all, lots of grace, just writing and reading things and letting it subconsciously, as an artist, you just have to let things subconsciously come out. And you tell yourself, is this wrong or is this right? Or will the audience like that? And that's something that I really had to, throw out the window was, is the audience going to love this? Is the Orthodox audience going to love this? Are Protestants going to be drawn to this? I had to really just knock all those things out and just make a film, make a feature film, make an art film. And that was the most important, because I think if you do that, then truth will come out for sure.
And so what can I say this? Like, I'm still wanting to get a few sense of the reactions of the people. Like, let's say your investors, when they watch it, like, what was their? How did they react? How did they see this? Like, what? Because if a lot of them weren't even Christian, weren't Orthodox, how did they perceive? Like, did they get? Were they missing some of the cues? It's hard to see from the outside, because we have our own perspective.
Yeah.
Like, were they able to follow everything? Like, was something so esoteric that they couldn't really catch? Or
It's so wild, because the non-Orthodox or non-Christian, mainly non-Orthodox people who've watched it have never said that they were ever confused. They totally grasped the picture. I've had several Orthodox say that they need to watch it again. I've had several Orthodox people say, well, some of those things didn't seem very Orthodox that were happening in the film. And maybe and a lot of people have said, like, I've never seen Orthodoxy like that before. And maybe it's because they have their own bubble of how they've perceived Orthodoxy, if they've been, cradle, or if they've been a convert, or however it's been. We all have our different takes on it. But if you're not Orthodox, you're almost watching it like it's the Seventh Seal or Wings of Desire. You're not coming into it seeing if things are correct or if things are right or wrong. But we did. I mean, as you know, we had a lot of counsel in this film. We had priests and bishops and the Metropolitan. We had a lot of people reading the script, giving notes. We had someone there every single day. Father Theophan was there every single day, making sure everything that was liturgical was liturgical. We have, our composer, Michael Paraskevas, who has just come off the Disney show Agatha All Along. His dad was the choir director at St. Seraphim for 40 years. And, he's Orthodox.
Yeah,
So
by the way, the music is a big part of this movie, because it was interesting. I watched the early cut of it, and I could kind of get it. But when it came together with the music, it really ties everything together. The score is really well done.
Yeah, Michael we talked about having like an American Gothic sound, a Texas, a little bit of the Appalachian sounds. There's banjo, but there's also banjo and semitron. And then we have, my wife's in the band, the Polyphonic Spree. And so we had the Polyphonic Spree choir sing on parts. And then we had the St. Seraphim choir sing on parts. So there's this back and forth. It's how I feel as a Texas Orthodox, is you still have your roots. You have your Southern roots, but you're also entering into Orthodoxy. And how does that look? It looks different. When I was first Orthodox, there's a film festival down in Victoria, Texas, and it was during Pascha. It was during Holy Week, and we had gone to service, and I was newly we're catechumens at this time, and I walk in, everyone's got beards, and There's chanting involved, and there's singing, and the main priest comes over to say hi to me, and I'm thinking, in my brain, I'm thinking he's either Greek or he's Russian. And he's like, "What are y'all doing in town?" And it was just like, it's so jarring in this. He's like, "Y'all want to eat? We have some chili and cornbread," and you're just like, oh man, I love that. And that's when you go back to why did I choose the Fool for Christ, or why is it Texas? It's just this, I love things that are abstract and things that are constant. I love things that are, both at the same time. So yeah, I think with some Protestants, I think it's foreign. It's foreign to them as well. There's a lot of Catholic people who are really, really excited that have watched it, that are really, really moved by it. So I'm really interested, as you are, to see like what everyone's going to really, really think, because like you said, I think once this is a dangerous film in a good way, and I think that's the kind of cinema I'm drawn to, and I think a lot of people like to go watch something that you participate, and you drive home and you're processing it, and that's what a lot of people who are not Orthodox have said. They said, "I've been thinking about your film, Josh. It's really beautiful. I'm ready to watch it again." So that's encouraging to me, for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that happens when you watch the movie, for sure, is it's a demanding film. Like it demands of you, because there are some things that it doesn't give you, right? And it kind of takes you long, and it doesn't hand them to you. It's like you actually have to go get them, and then once you get them, you realize, oh, and then things kind of come together, and you can see the image, let's say, coming together. So it's a demanding film, but it also is this. It smashes things together that, like you said, people aren't used to seeing being put together. So you have this kind of homegrown sense of Texas, this kind of rural feeling of Texas, right? And then that is smashed. Like on top of that, you have this sense of orthodoxy and of liturgical practice and the monastic life. And then on top of that, you have this whole weird kind of Fool for Christ carnival imagery. For people who don't know, there's actually like an actual little person who's a monk in the movie that, and so it brings, that adds all this kind of sense of like an old style carnival. I don't want to give things away, but there are a lot of these elements kind of coming in together. And then on top of that, you have this whole kind of European vision of cinema of like Tarkovsky and Bergman, a kind of surrealist element as well, this visionary cinema approach. So it's like, I've never seen anything like it. I don't, when I try to explain it, it's like it's just all these layers, but it doesn't, but in the end, it comes together as an experience that is quite powerful and beautiful, but it is demanding of people. It's not, this is not popcorn cinema. This is art. This is an art film.
Yeah. There's times, even the opening scene, and this is no spoiler, but the opening scene is an 8-minute long take. There's no cuts. And several people have said, like, I was waiting for it to cut and turn and see Father John, but you never let us. And it just sets a precedent for the film, just to say, like, sit back. There's not going to be, the Marvel 2-3 second cuts every 5 seconds, that we're going to sit with this almost like theater. But you did touch on something when you talked about the small person, the little person, Seraphim in the film, and he's based on Saint John the Dwarf. And so when people do talk to me, they say, well, is this Orthodox based? All of the Fool for Christ and all the monks in the movie are based on stories of the Orthodox saints. There's nothing that I made up besides dialogue that did not pertain to some things, just filling in the gaps of dialogue. But anything that is spiritual in the film, anything that's Fool for Christ driven, those were all taken from stories. And it was such a honor, and it was such a blast for me to be able to take those stories that we all know, and it's like an Easter egg. The people who are Orthodox have been coming up to me and being like, "Oh, is this that scene? Is that because of Saint John of Shanghai?" Or we start to break things down, and it's a conversation, and then say, "Oh, I need to watch it again because I think I missed that scene." Like when he's doing there's a silent film scene when he's in the cathedral and he's doing his gifts. That's taken from Orthodox stories as well about
yeah. There's like I said, we don't want to spoil it, but there really is, because the thing is that you think also, like you said, we are already hinting at this, is that you have this sense of, okay, it's called The Fool for Christ, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then by the time the movie's over, you're actually like, well, wait a minute, who was the fool? Who's the fool for Christ? Actually, then you realize that it's actually a smashing together of all these little kind of Christian folly layers of images that have kind of been brought together. And so anyway, so we'll let people discover it on their own. But yeah, so that's also part of kind of and it's something that I think a lot of people, it'll come to them later. They'll watch it, and then you're sitting at home and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I thought I got that. And then it's like, no, these other images are kind of layering themselves into your memory, and you realize there's something that you kind of saw, but you didn't really completely understand. So it's I think it's definitely a movie that will warrant for several people that aren't, especially people that aren't used to watching kind of art films and are used to just being handed everything. Like they'll probably want to watch it more than once.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Like you probably are the same way here, Jonathan. But like a lot of the stuff that I create, art and stuff like that, it's like I can go back and watch it. Sometimes it could be a little cringy because of something. Maybe I was it's dated, or maybe I wish I would have. That's always the thing of his art. I wish I would have done this. It's so bizarre with this film that I love watching it with audiences. I love watching it because even I watch it and I find new things that I guess was a subconscious move from the actor or from my cinematographer or from me, or maybe I wrote it a certain way, but being so busy making the film, being so busy like editing, doing the sound design, now promoting it, now, raising the money to put it into theatrical release, I can watch it as an audience member. And I'm really excited to keep watching it with people and talking to people about it because, I have a lot of questions.
So folks, I would say, we're going to put the link to the Kickstarter in the description. We talk about culture on this podcast. We talk about art. We criticize the current state of artistic production. We're also trying to ourselves kind of create new things, beautiful things, powerful things that are going to transform culture. And so this is a great possibility for you to participate in a beautiful, powerful movie that is being made, to be a part of it, to be able to help advance a new vision of culture, a new way of doing things, and one that isn't naive but is deeply ingrained in everything we can learn from cinema, from our tradition. All of this kind of brought together as a vision of what's possible. And so really, folks, I encourage you to go there. And it's cool because some of the tiers are really participative. You get to have your name in the credits. You get to, have a special credit on IMDb. Like I said, they're really being generous at what they're offering for people to participate in this. So this is a chance to not just be in despair of what's happening around us and the state of culture, but participate in the future. So go and check this out. And Josh, thank you for doing this. You put a lot on the line to do this. You kind of, obviously, you were able to get through it. People don't understand how insane it is to make a movie on your own. Like, it's really crazy. So thank you for holding the vision and getting that done. And so maybe give people a last sense of what it is you're hoping to see, like what you want to see happen, and then we'll let people go to the Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting that this is something that hasn't been done before, like we talked about, which is a North American fictional narrative feature with a background of Orthodoxy. And it's very important to watch this in a cinema. I think, we all get distracted. I do too. I have the Criterion channel and I get distracted, grabbing a snack or checking on the pizza or looking at your phone. This film really does demand your attention, like you're going to the opera or going to the theater. And so you can be a part of this Kickstarter, and by just donating, you can purchase a ticket. And if it's not coming into your town, you can have a live screening event where we're going to show it on your computer, on your TV, and I'll take questions. We're trying to get this thing in most cities in the U.S., and then we're going to go overseas. We'll be in Romania and Greece this November, and so we're building towards that. And really, I think it's going to be fun because we're also doing a vinyl record that'll have the soundtrack. It's a double vinyl. It'll have the music that's not even in the movie. It'll have stuff from St. Seraphim Choir. It'll have dialogue like Walt Disney used to put out in those Disney movies. They would have the dialogue from the movie. So there's so much exciting things that are happening. And if everyone just shares this and then goes and brings friends and discusses this film, it really will, I think, transform the landscape of what else can come from that. Other people following, I feel like I have a machete, and there was no path to this, and I'm making a machete, and hopefully people will follow along, and we can keep creating beautiful art.
Yeah, and like you hinted at, one of the lowest tiers on the Kickstarter is like pretty much the price of a ticket. It's like $20. You get exclusive VIP showing of the movie, and so it's like if you even plan to even just see this movie, like just go and support the Kickstarter, and it'll help them be able to participate in the theatrical release. So, So Josh, thanks for everything, and I'm excited to see this come out, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I mean, I've watched it only once, completely finished, and hopefully we'll get that done.
Yeah, thank you for being a part of it. It really means a lot, and I'm excited for everybody to finally see El Tonto Por Cristo.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye-bye.